All right, good morning, everybody. How you doing? Of course, Siddharth, you're already here. What a shocker. Good to see you. Everyone else, as you join, grab a cup of coffee. We'll get going here in just a minute. And if you would, help us out, share this thing. Send it out to your friends, let them know that it's going on. And as always, let us know where you're at. And we'll kick off here in just a minute. As we continue to get folks joining in. Fantastic. All right. With that, let's go ahead and get going. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 31st episode of FinTech Insider, the Breakfast Show US. I'm Sam Maule. I am the 11FS Managing Director North America, and I'll be your host for this morning's show. Do let us know where you're watching from, where you're at on the globe. We love hearing from our viewers where you're based. And please share this stream. Hit that like button. And please subscribe to 11FS on LinkedIn so you'll never miss a show. Before we start, I thought I would actually start doing something a little bit different and hit on maybe three of the biggest stories that I saw that are happening in the fintech space and financial services as a whole. So the first one, New York Times this morning reported retail sales in the U.S. fell 16.4%. That is the biggest two-month decline on record. So if you're wondering what the impact of COVID has been on the U.S. economy, yet another indicator. In other news, Robinhood, the fintech unicorn and darling here in the U.S., has closed a new round of capital. They increased their valuation to $8.3 billion. And then on the flip side of that, Monzo, so one of the challenger banks that actually has come to the U.S. and has applied for a U.S. banking license, they are closing in on a new funding round, but their valuation plunged 40%. So they're now valued at roughly 1.2 billion pounds, and that's about 1.52 billion US dollars. So what I would say about Monzo is similar to probably several banks in the UK right now. They've seen their valuation drop. So I don't think that is specific to Monzo at this time. We're seeing that happen to other folks. Today, we're happy to be joined by Kim Snyder from KlariVis on today's show. We'll be talking about her company, how it came about, and how they help community banks get the data they need in order to support their customers during these times. And Kim, you are in Roanoke, Virginia, right?
Yes, I am.
One of my favorite places in the U.S. Very historic Roanoke, Virginia. My kids hate it when we go there because I stop and look at like every sign I see in the roads. That's, they can get over it.
That's right.
That's what parents do. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and
Sure.
how you came about with the idea for the company?
Yeah, absolutely, Sam. Thank you. I appreciate being on this morning and look forward to the discussion. So I guess I'll start kind of into my career when I joined Valley Bank as a CFO. We were at the time about a $400 million community bank here in Roanoke. I had just left a startup company to come join them. So I guess I caught the entrepreneurial bug during my startup days with that particular organization, and worked with Valley as the CFO for about 10 years. In 2015, the bank sold. And I had such a passion for community banking. I wanted to start my own consulting business and continue to help community banks along the way. And so I was very blessed, picked up some very early clients. And what that enabled me to do was start hiring back my banking team that had worked with me at Valley. And so over the past 4.5 years, we've spent a lot of time working with about 30 different financial institutions up and down the East Coast primarily, doing a myriad of projects, process improvement work, M&A work, strategic planning work, and believe it or not, we ran finance and accounting for a couple of small banks during that time period. The issue that we continued to see at every bank we went into, regardless of size, regardless of core system, regardless of IT sophistication, was the amount of time and energy and resources that were being spent trying to extract data out of all the various systems that a bank has and combine it in some fashion in order to make decisions off of it. So 2 years ago, the light bulb went off and my team and I decided we wanted to solve that problem, and KlariVis was born.
So you actually have something on your website that I really like that says you free up the gray space. Mm-hmm. As somebody who has a lot of gray space and gray hair, talking about myself, what do you mean by that? That's a good catchphrase, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Valley, we had 6 to 8 people who spent 30 to 40% of their day doing exactly what I just said, which is pulling information out of the various systems, dumping them into Excel, and they spent all of their time and energy, right, trying to write the reports, create the information that management can make decisions off of. With KlariVis, all that work's done for you. And so instead of those high-paid individuals spending 40% of their time creating the reports, they now can sit back and analyze the information, free up the gray space, and make decisions that are right for their organization.
So we've got a pretty good crowd. We're covering the U.S. well. We got Iowa, Boston, Virginia, London. Of course, we'd have London, San Francisco. So here you go, Kim. We got the continental U.S.
All right.
Pretty much covered. So you talked a little bit about your customers, and in your opening statement, when you talked about kind of the vision for the company, you were talking about the issue around data, right? Actually being able to take the data that you have on hand and use it for your clients. But this is applicable, like you said, from anything from a small community bank all the way up to the top 4. None of them are really good at it.
Yeah, I would say you're right on that. And it's something that I've honestly been surprised about. When we started the company, our focus was really those community banks with asset size banking. The banking industry is known in terms of asset size, right? So we were really primarily focused on the 10 billion and less. That's where I have credibility. That's where we spend our time on the consulting side. And we know what those banks do on a day in and day out basis. What we've been surprised by, however, in our national launch that occurred pre-COVID, the number of banks that are interested that are way above that $10 billion range because they see our product and they're like, oh my gosh, we don't have this either. And that was a light bulb moment for me as well, to be honest with you, because I just assumed the big guys had technology, that did this, and they don't. Yeah,
it's so for the folks in the U.S. and international, if you want kind of a view of the U.S., when we're talking about banks, if you take the top 100 banks in the U.S., that'll take you down to, I think, around 20 billion in assets. That would include like Bank of Hawaii, by the way, would be included in that. First National Bank of Omaha. So banks like that maybe a lot of you haven't heard of. That's the top 100. You still got, I don't know, 4,500 plus banks. I'm not even talking credit unions yet in the U.S. So, Kim, it's always important to have a deep market. Congratulations.
Yep. But even if we look at the 10 billion and less, our initial target size, there's almost 5,700 banks and credit unions in that space, just in 10 billion and below. So yeah, it is a good market.
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more when you say that. And I think it's a market that historically is, I don't want to say ignored, because there are solution providers that focus in, on those. But I think when you talk about solutions like yours, right, that are looking at the data that they're being provided by, typically by core providers, right? So FIS, Fiserv, Jack Henry, you take your pick. Those banks are heavily reliant upon their service providers. So they need solutions like yours, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So those systems that you just mentioned, FIS, Fiserv, Jack Henry, they serve a very important part, but they're transaction based, right? They're there. They were built many, many, many years ago to process transactions. That's completely different than business intelligence. And so our solution is taking all of that information, not only from their systems, but some of the ancillary systems, which are just growing by the number today, right? New mobile banking applications, new online banking, new bill pay solutions. They're being introduced every day into our space, and banks are starting to say, hey, we could go outside and get a really cool app, right, for our customers. But what happens there then is now you have customer data that lives on that app that doesn't speak to the core. And so that is really exponentially driving the need for a product like ours. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. I've said that like 5 times today. That's my catchphrase for this for this session. I couldn't agree more. Folks, as always, feel free to ask questions. Let us know where you're at. Now we've got Chicago, New York, a couple other places covered. Again, that's what I love about doing these live. Are the folks that we see from all over the globe, but the questions that they ask. And the reason I say that, and Kim, I told you this right before we started, you're going to have a group that's watching that is very well attuned to the industry. So they understand, and they've lived through the problems that you're going to be talking about. But you say that too. Again, on your website, folks, I did do research. You talk about, this is banking solutions for bankers, built by bankers. So you talked about, I think one of the things you mentioned was when you started a consultant firm and then you started this, you were able to take a lot of your team to bring over? So I'm guessing a lot of your folks come out of the community banking space.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is our number one differentiator. In the
Yeah.
banking space and the banking industry, when I was at Valley, it was so common to see a really cool piece of technology and say, yeah, we need that for our bank. But then during the implementation, it was always a struggle because the technology folks who developed that solution really didn't understand the banking industry.
Amen.
And so we believe that our competitive advantage, and our bank clients are telling us this, and even folks who are seeing our product for the first time are telling us this, we can tell this was developed by bankers. You're putting the information together in a way that makes perfect sense to me. It's the way that I need to see it. It's the way that I want to use it. And so we have a solid group of core bankers, which I'll call our subject matter experts, of which I am one. And then we have some really, really smart technology folks who take the vision out of my head and my teammates had and put it to work in the form of technology that's building a really cool solution.
Yeah, and a lot of times, and Kim, I'd like your opinion on this, it's just not the tech side of this, it's how you work with procurement, how you work and find a sponsor, right, within your clients. It's how that integration happens. I've heard, I've similar like you, I'm sure, you've been on those Shark Tanks or boards, or in the UK, Dragon's Den, where people are giving you pitches, and incredibly intelligent people that come up with great solutions, but they never worked in banking. And they'll go up and say, yeah, we can implement this in a month. We can be up and integrated with you in a month. And you look at them going, actually, you can't. And it's not you. It's going to be the other side of that. And you're not grasping what you're about to go through.
That's right. Yeah. And the fact that, we have, myself, I was a chief financial officer, really being groomed to be the next CEO of my bank when we were there. We have a very strong, I call her our resident banker, chief risk officer and administrative officer on our team. Jerry, who's our chief operating and product officer, he was chief financial officer as well. We've sat in the seats. We're selling to the C-suite. It's the C-suite who buys this product. It's not the IT folks. It's the folks that are really trying to strategically move the needle with their organization, increase the wallet share with their current customer base. We all know it's much cheaper, right, to sell to your current customer base than it is to go out and acquire new customers. The ability to do that in the banking space today at the small community bank level is really difficult unless you have a tool like KlariVis. And so, we resonate well. We understand their challenges, and we develop a really strong trust with our bankers, and that's important with any type of product like this.
So Kim, I was watching some of the KlariVis videos on your website and on YouTube last night, and you made a statement that I actually agree with, and I want you to expand on a little bit. You said that when it comes to banks, you're actually sitting on better data and more data than a Facebook.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I am on Facebook. I got dragged onto Facebook. Didn't want to be on Facebook. I'm there now. Oh my God, I hate Facebook. Oh my God, I hate Facebook. But can you expand on that? Because again, you're looking at data. That's what the company's doing. So
so it's the more personal, intimate, data that a bank has about you. Think about where you spend your money, how you spend your money, who you spend your money with. The bank has all of that information, right, living in their transactions, and their customers are speaking to them every single day through their transactions. And what the bank needs to do is take a step back and listen. By looking at the transactions, by analyzing them and understanding what their customers are doing and telling them. And when you dive into the data, it's amazing what you can learn, right? And it's really important because what community banking needs to be able to do is start personalizing their offerings for their customers based upon their customer persona, based upon where they are in their life cycle. All of those things the bank has about you. Don't be scared by that. They keep it very safe, but it is true. It's just the nature of the industry.
So what I really like I've been watching way too many shows on Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, you take your pick, like we all have. But one of the things I really do like the show Jack Ryan, where if you really want to understand somebody, you go into their transaction, you follow the money, right? You look at the transactions, you follow that history to really get a picture of what's going on with them and what they're doing. So can you kind of walk me through one of the major things you do is integrate into reporting too. So can you talk through the process? Because I think you take a view every night, right? And sift through the transactions. Can you walk us through that?
Sure, absolutely. So right now what we do is we come into the bank, and because we're bankers, we do all the heavy lifting on the implementation side. And we actually write the reports that we need using the bank's report writing tools that they have already built into their system. So there's no additional cost for the bank. And we do the same thing from a transactions, depending on where the transactions are living, right? If they're living in the bill pay app, we're pulling it from there. If they live in the mobile app, we're pulling it from there. If it's all in the core, great. It's much easier to implement. And then we schedule those. You put a PowerShell script. I'm getting technical, right? To where the bank delivers it. The bank delivers it to our solution, which lives in the cloud every night. And then that's where we do our magic, which is connecting all the data points and then feeding it back to the bank in the form of business intelligence. So just for example, some of the things that we've pivoted to here recently because of COVID is an early warning indicator analysis. So a bank can go into KlariVis and they can see, push a button, show me the customers who missed their last ACH regular deposit. What does that mean? It means they probably didn't get paid. They probably lost their job. So giving the bank the capability to see that instantaneously and then proactively reach out to their customer and say, how can I help you during this difficult time? That's what community banks do. That's why I love community banks, because that personalized service, that customer touch point that they do a good job with now, but now having that information at their fingertips on a daily basis, it's going to take it to the next level. And they're really going to create customers for life, which is what I'm trying to help them do.
So a good question from Zarik in Chicago. Hey, Zarik. He works at Discover. Do you see any potential for data-focused companies like yours to play a role in one day driving the American version of something like open banking? I knew that question was coming. There we go.
So open banking is definitely, happening. There are cores that are being developed today in the cloud that are developing an open API infrastructure. So that is definitely already occurring in the space. And so yes, KlariVis would be one of those companies that would interact with those core systems and help facilitate that open banking environment. Absolutely.
Another man's questions are flying in, Kim. So let's go. Gear up. You ready?
All right. I'm ready.
All right. So Jeff asked, how do you move from nice to know reports to cultural integration into the decision-making process? Amen. Good question.
Yeah, perfect question. We get asked all the time. So what we've done is actually partnered with Meredith Powell. If you don't know her, look her up. She's fantastic. As part of the KlariVis training program, Meredith comes in and develops a sales strategy as part of our overall training program for the bank, so they can understand how to utilize KlariVis to move the needle on profitability, to determine the ROI that they want, but also help with those cultural problems that sometimes exist in community banking. So that's how we're solving that.
So I'm laughing, everybody.
Yeah, you are laughing. You're throwing me off. I'm like,
I'm laughing at you. No, Kim. I'm dying laughing. People that watch this every day know that I do this from my 17-year-old daughter's bedroom. And I've said it a couple times. She has slept through a couple of these, right? It's just off to my left. Well, she just walked in with a surfboard that we just bought. I live in Florida. And she just doesn't care. She's so happy the surfboard is here that while you're talking, I'm watching my daughter with her new surfboard. Ah, God. You got to love COVID. Thanks a lot, guys. This is the kind of joke that we have to put. She doesn't care. She's just still just sitting there. Another good question from Jean. Does your solution use APIs to free data from the core providers and allow the data to move into other applications outside of KlariVis if you need to?
So today, no. Today, we are not pushing data from our solution to other solutions. In the future, so where we're going to take this, one of the things that we're very proud of is we're part of the Microsoft program. So we're going to actually be on Azure Marketplace in the next couple of weeks, where you can look at KlariVis and purchase it. What that's going to do is give us the capability to start partnering with some of the Microsoft partners. Say there's one company in particular that's out there that uses Dynamics for the customer relationship management system, and then it flows right into digital banking, which is what or digital marketing, which is what community banks need help with. So where we see this going, right, is a feed that KlariVis is pulling all the information out. You're going to be able to utilize it as your customer relationship management, and then right into marketing. We're not there today, but that is definitely where we're headed. Yeah,
and that was the second part of her question. So I love how you phrase it, because she said, if so, do you have a partnership network with other fintechs? Boom. So there's your answer, right? I think that I don't want to say the future because that exists now, but I think we're going to see that trend move more and more and more. Where you have ecosystems, partnership networks across the banking and fintech ecosystem, and beyond that into retail, right? Into just about integrated into the damn smart car that we'll be driving. You take your pick. As a matter of fact, it's one of my favorite quotes. And Kim, I'd love to get your feedback on this. The CEO of Ford Motor Company, I think it was last summer when he was at one of the massive conferences in Europe. I can't remember the name of it, but he said, if we're not looking at Ford as an auto company anymore. We're an ecosystem company. And that's what he talked about, smart cities, right? Integration with data, integration with financial services as being part of an overall ecosystem. And I think that's where most of us as companies are moving to.
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more. And I always believe, I've grown up believing, I learned this lesson a long time ago. Partnerships are really good. Why, you know, I've had a lot of folks that have said, Kim, why don't you just turn this into a CRM system? We want it to be a CRM system. Like, why would I do that? There's so many of those out there, right? Let's just go find the one that works really well with our solution, and let's partner with those guys rather than spending our R&D money on doing that. That's just the way I believe, and I think that ecosystem that you're talking about is just going to continue to evolve.
We're going to name this episode "I Couldn't Agree More" because you and I have now. That's their drinking game, everybody. Every time we say that, take a shot. We're on a roll. I agree. A friend of mine, Mike Dudas, he used to be with Google Wallet. He was with Venmo and the Braintree team. He's now 100% in on Bitcoin. And hey, good for you, Mike. But he gave me some really good advice a long time ago. We were sitting in Monday 2020 when he was still with Google Wallet at the time. And I said, if you were a founder of a tech solution, what's your advice to him? And he goes, think narrow and think deep. So don't try to solve everything, right? What is it you're really good at, and what has a really deep impact? We already talked about the number of banks and credit unions and community banks in the US. So if you can come up with a very specific solution that works in an ecosystem, I think you'll do great. And that ties into this next question. And I have slaughtered your name on every show. She has told me how to spell it phonetically, and I'm going to say it wrong again. So Sunaina. Damn it, I didn't even come close. Do you think the new digital banks that consider themselves more tech forward have in-house capabilities to do what you're doing already? And what would the new fintechs want? Why would new fintechs want to use your service? Good question.
Yeah, very good question. So the digital banks, you know, essentially what they are using a core solution.
Yeah.
They've just stood up a separate bank, a separate identity in the digital space, right? So they still have the same problems that we have. They're using a Jack Henry solution. They're not using a new innovative core. They're using one of the current core systems that we have. They don't have physical branches. They're just attracting their customers digitally. Right. And so absolutely they have the same issues, and they will have the same needs that KlariVis solves.
So another good question from Sid Ruhar. Hey, Sid Ruhar, good morning. Out in San Francisco, another startup founder. He goes, big banks not only have money, but they also have sheer volume of data. Yes, I agree with that. Since data is the new oil, I don't know, I'd call it the new oil. I'd say data is the oxygen or water that lives all around us, that drives AI and analytics. How can smaller banks like community banks, credit unions compete unless they aggregate data across banks? That'll be tough.
Yeah, so we're going to allow them to compete. Right. Yeah. So our solution, we are aggregating all of that data from all of their various systems, and we are going to have the capability, right, to provide the predictive analytics and the artificial intelligence and all of the things that they look like that they're looking for. So that is the need that KlariVis is solving, in addition to the pain point of reporting. So beautiful question. You set me up really well there.
You're welcome. That's what I'm here for. And for those that haven't worked at a bank, let me just go ahead and say this. You're like, reporting, that's so boring. Welcome to banking, by the way. Banking is boring for a reason. I'm just going to say that. And if you don't think reporting requirements eat up so much time, both going internal and outside the company, whether that be regulators, right? Auditors, you take your pick, or to your client base and internal, reporting is really a lifeblood. Access to data in a way that makes sense, right?
That is it right there. It's not reporting, it's access to data in a way that makes sense. And let me tell you why. If I understand everything that I need to understand and can look at my bank holistically at the officer level, at the branch level, at the customer level, right? Yeah. And I can truly see what's happening. What's that going to enable me to do? It's going to enable me to enhance my customer experience for my customers. At the end of the day, the bank having this type of information at their fingertips on a daily basis is going to allow them to engage with their customers more frequently and more appropriately based upon what the customer is doing with the organization.
Yeah, at 11FS, we talk about this constantly. The digital, when we think about it, it's this move to real-time contextualized data and engagement with your customer base. That's whether it be individual consumers or bank clients, whether that be small businesses. It's that speed and access and contextualized engagement that we've seen other industries master and get really good at, and we're seeing banking
Not
moving.
good at it yet.
Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah, I'm trying to be nice. I'm being very pleasant, working their way there. All right, we're going to finish on what I think is no, David Garabino, really? He's going to ask a question. I love you, David. You waited till right to the end. Does your solution use the core vendor APIs, or is it using a data extract, or both?
So right now it's using a data extract, but we're already having discussions with the core vendors. We're already through the Jack Henry, integration partnership program. And so that's definitely where we're headed. But to get off the ground, we needed some clients that would go tell their core providers that they wanted KlariVis to make them move faster. I don't know if you've ever loved those guys, but
yes, I know.
You can't do it on you have to have some momentum going to make that work. So
I'm a ex-thesis product guy back in the day. So yes, I understand. So that's a fair question. All right. So now I'm going to get you with my last question. I'm going to ask this one because I've asked this of every guest lately, and I think it's a good one. Hence I'm asking. When we look at what's happened with this pandemic, right? And I'm going to focus in on the U.S. in particular. What do you think what are some of the key, I don't want to say key learnings, but key changes you think we're going to have, especially with engaging with our financial institutions? What do you think are be the ones that either are going to get accelerated or surprised you with this?
Yeah, so we've been talking in the banking industry about digital, right? Is going to blow, right? That's where the world's headed. This pandemic is definitely exacerbated that, and in my opinion, and I think we're going to see a paradigm shift. Customers who never used online banking before, all of a sudden are using online banking, and so one of the things that we're doing at KlariVis is creating the visualizations for our banks to be able to see pre-COVID, during COVID, and then post-COVID as far as their channel delivery, because what's going to be important about that, Sam, is it's going to drive growth strategy in the future, right?
I agree.
Yep. 100% going to drive growth strategy. So what we need to be able to do is understand how much of that how much of it stuck at the end of the day post-COVID, and folks that had not used online banking before are now going to start using online banking and continue using it going into the future. But I don't think the branches are dead. Branches are still very important. When somebody wants to go borrow money at the end of the day, a lot of times they want to go sit down with a community banker and talk to them about that, their first mortgage, their first car loan, and so forth. And so I think branches are not dead, but I think the digital's definitely become mainstream.
A good answer. All right, folks, believe it or not, we're out of time. So Kim, thanks for joining. Where can people find out more about you and about KlariVis?
KlariVis.com.
That was easy. All right, Alex. Hey, my daughter, bring a surfboard over here. We got to show everybody this.
Yeah,
I'm proud. Yeah. Everyone else, thanks for joining. On Monday, I'll be joined by Sunil Chandri. She's the CEO of Oak North. Damn, that makes me happy. That'll be a really good one, folks. Again, if you know someone who'd like to come on the show, don't hesitate to reach out or ping me at Sam Maule on Twitter, or podcast at 11fs.com. Alex, walk this way. Show them your board. This is a big moment, everybody. I'm very proud of this. There you go. Florida living. Look at that.
Nice.
That's my background from now on, Tobias. I will look so damn cool from here on out. I'm going to set that up. Kim, thanks for joining. It was a lot of fun. I really, really appreciate it. Absolutely. See you all tomorrow. Or no, see you all Monday. Everybody have a good weekend.
Absolutely. See you. Bye-bye.